Commander Yuki sat in his command chair aboard the massive Council warship, watching the holographic display of the small blue planet spinning slowly in space. For 47 years, the Galactic Council had been watching this world called Earth. The humans living there seemed so simple, so backward compared to the great civilizations that ruled the stars. "Another report, Commander," said his aide, a tall crystalline being named Vex. The creature's body sparkled as light passed through its transparent form. "The humans have launched 3 more deep space probes this month. They are moving further from their home planet than ever before." Yuki took the data pad and scrolled through the information. The names of Earth's leaders looked strange to him: President Miho Park, General Suzy Kim, Admiral Jisoo Lee. They seemed like the names of children playing pretend games, not real rulers of a world. "These humans think they can explore space like the great civilizations," Yuki said with a laugh. "They barely know how to leave their own atmosphere properly." The hologram projector in the center of the command room flickered to life. Admiral Taku appeared, his green-scaled skin and yellow eyes making him look fierce and dangerous. He commanded the Council's Third Fleet, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. "Commander Yuki," Taku's voice was deep and commanding. "The High Council is growing tired of watching these humans spread beyond their moon. It is time to contain them." "What are your orders, Admiral?" Yuki asked, already knowing what the answer would be. "Send them the standard ultimatum. Tell them to stop their space exploration and accept Council protection. If they refuse, we will use the usual corrective measures." Admiral Taku's expression showed only mild annoyance, like someone dealing with a small pest. "Their weapons are primitive nuclear devices. Their spacecraft can barely reach their own moon. This should take no more than a few days." Far below on Earth, alarms were ringing in military command centers around the world. President Miho Park stood in the underground bunker beneath Seoul, staring at screens that showed hundreds of alien spacecraft at the edge of the solar system. The ships were enormous, each one larger than Earth's biggest cities. "How much time do we have?" President Miho asked Defense Minister Gina Song, who was studying radar displays with a worried expression. "Our best calculations say 16 hours before they reach Earth orbit," replied Air Force General Kyung Bae. His face was pale as he looked at the tactical information. "Mr. President, we have to be realistic about this situation. They have technology we can only dream of. Faster-than-light travel, energy weapons that could destroy entire cities in seconds, shields that could stop our best missiles." Around the table, military leaders from every nation sat in stunned silence. Navy Admiral Jisoo Lee spoke quietly. "Sir, perhaps we should consider negotiation. Maybe they want something we can give them without fighting." President Miho walked to the large screen showing Earth from space. The planet looked so beautiful and peaceful from that distance. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown land masses. It was hard to believe that alien warships were preparing to attack their world. "What do we have for defense?" he asked. General Kyung looked down at his papers. "Our complete nuclear arsenal includes approximately 14,000 warheads. We have experimental railgun satellites that were just launched last year. Some laser defense systems that are still being tested. And," he paused, "and the will to fight for our home." "That does not sound like much against their technology," said Admiral Jisoo with a heavy sigh. President Miho turned back to face his military commanders. "Will have to be enough. We are not going to surrender our freedom to these aliens without a fight." In space, Commander Yuki prepared the standard Council ultimatum message. He had sent similar messages to dozens of primitive worlds over the years. Most species quickly accepted Council protection once they saw the size of the fleet. The few that resisted were usually brought under control within hours. "Begin broadcasting on all human communication channels," Yuki ordered his communications officer. "Let them hear what happens to species that refuse Council guidance." The message reached every television, radio, and computer on Earth at the same time. People everywhere stopped what they were doing to listen as the alien commander spoke in perfect human languages. "Primitive inhabitants of the planet Earth," Yuki's voice was cold and official. "You have been expanding your presence beyond your natural boundaries. This cannot be allowed to continue. You will immediately cease all space exploration beyond your moon and accept Galactic Council protection. Failure to comply will result in corrective military action. You have 12 hours to respond with your complete surrender." In the Seoul command bunker, President Miho looked around the table at his advisors. The room was completely quiet except for the humming of computers and the distant sound of air circulation systems. Everyone was waiting for him to speak. "Signal all our forces around the world," President Miho said slowly and clearly. Activate Red Dawn Protocol immediately. General Kyung looked surprised. Sir, are you certain? Red Dawn means total war preparation. I am completely certain, the president replied. If these aliens want our world, they're going to have to take it from us. And that will not be as easy as they think. As military bases around Earth began implementing the Red Dawn Protocol, humanity prepared for the first interstellar war in their history. They were vastly outmatched and outgunned, but they had something the Galactic Council had not expected: the absolute determination to fight for their freedom no matter what the cost. The giant screens in Times Square, London, Tokyo, and every major city on Earth suddenly flickered to life. People stopped walking and stared as an alien face appeared before them. Admiral Taku looked like a nightmare made real, with dark green scales covering his skin and bright yellow eyes that seemed to look right through the camera. His voice was calm and cold, like someone ordering coffee instead of threatening an entire planet. Primitive inhabitants of Earth, Taku spoke in perfect English, though everyone watching knew the same message was being broadcast in every human language at once. You will cease all expansion beyond your satellite and submit to Council protection, or face corrective measures. The message lasted only 30 seconds, but those words changed everything. In homes, offices, and schools around the world, humans watched in shock as their worst science fiction fears became reality. Children cried, adults stood frozen, and world leaders rushed to emergency meetings. Deep beneath Seoul, President Miho Park sat at a metal table surrounded by his most trusted advisors. The underground bunker felt cold and lifeless, lit by harsh fluorescent lights that made everyone's face look pale and tired. Defense Minister Gina Song was the first to break the heavy silence that followed the broadcast. Mr. President, we need to consider our options carefully, she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. If we comply with their demands, perhaps we can negotiate better terms later. General Kyung-bae slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. Better terms? Have you forgotten what happened to the Zilani system? The Korith homeworld. He pulled up holographic displays showing dead planets stripped of all natural resources. I've been studying Council records for months. Every species they protect gets the same treatment. First they limit space travel, then they control trade, then they take everything valuable and leave empty worlds behind. Admiral Jisoo Lee nodded grimly. The general is right, sir. Protection is just another word for slow conquest. They turn entire civilizations into pets, dependent on Council handouts while their worlds are mined clean. President Miho stood up slowly and walked to the wall display showing Earth from space. The blue marble looked so peaceful, so beautiful. White clouds swirled over green continents and blue oceans. It was hard to believe that death was approaching from the darkness beyond. How long until their main fleet arrives? He asked. 18 hours, maybe less, replied General Kyung. Sir, I know what you're thinking, but we have to face reality. They have thousands of ships with weapons we can't even imagine. Our best missiles might not even scratch their hulls. The president turned back to his advisors. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. Signal all military forces worldwide. Activate Red Dawn Protocol immediately. Defense Minister Gina looked shocked. Sir, Red Dawn means total war preparation. Are you absolutely certain? I have never been more certain of anything in my life, President Miho replied. Send the order now. Within minutes, military bases around the world received the coded message that changed everything. Nuclear submarine commanders opened sealed orders they had hoped never to read. Missile silos began their launch preparations. Experimental weapons systems that had been in testing for years were suddenly declared operational. Every soldier, sailor, pilot, and marine on Earth now had one mission: defend their homeworld or die trying. 24 hours passed like a countdown to the end of the world. The Council scout ships moved closer to Earth, expecting the humans to send surrender messages at any moment. Instead, they detected massive energy signatures as nuclear reactors around the planet went to maximum power output. Admiral Taku sat in his command chair aboard the flagship, watching displays that showed Earth's military preparing for war instead of surrender. Curious, he said to his bridge crew. Most primitive species surrender immediately when they see our fleet size. These humans seem to be preparing for battle. Should we begin bombardment procedures? Asked his weapons officer, a tall gray-skinned alien with 4 arms. Not yet, Taku replied. Let them make the first move. It will make our response seem more justified to the Council. He did not have to wait long. Earth's response came without warning and with devastating effect. Modified intercontinental ballistic missiles launched from hidden silos around the world, each one carrying experimental guidance systems that had been designed to track fast-moving spacecraft. The nuclear warheads had been enhanced with technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien probes found decades earlier. The Council scouts, expecting primitive chemical rockets that could be easily intercepted, were completely unprepared for the coordinated nuclear barrage. Hundreds of missiles struck their forward positions simultaneously. 3 massive Council warships exploded in brilliant flashes of light visible from Earth's surface. 2 more ships suffered critical damage and began spinning helplessly through space, their hulls cracked open like broken eggs. Admiral Taku stared at his tactical display in complete disbelief. Red warning lights flashed across his bridge as damage reports flooded in from the surviving scout vessels. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They actually attacked us. A primitive species just attacked the Galactic Council." His communications officer, an insect-like creature with multiple eyes, turned toward him with obvious fear. "Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the planet's surface." The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of Earth's command bunker. President Miho stood in the center, flanked by General Kyung and Admiral Jisu. Behind them, dozens of military officers worked at computer stations, coordinating humanity's defense. The president looked directly into the camera with eyes that showed no fear, only determination. "This is Earth's response to your ultimatum," President Miho said calmly. "Come and take our world if you can." Deep beneath the mountains of Colorado, Dr. Hannah Choi had not slept in 3 days. Her white lab coat was stained with oil and metal dust as she bent over a table covered with pieces of alien technology. The underground research facility buzzed with activity as teams of scientists worked around the clock to understand the wreckage from the destroyed Council ships. "Hand me that power coupling," she called to her assistant, Dr. Jiho Park. "I think I'm starting to understand how their energy systems work." The alien power source hummed with a strange blue light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. It was no bigger than a car battery, yet it produced more energy than Earth's largest nuclear power plants. Hannah carefully connected human-made wires to the alien device, watching her computer screens for any sign of success. "Dr. Choi," came a voice from the communication system mounted on the wall. "This is General Kyung. What's your progress report?" Hannah wiped sweat from her forehead and looked at her notes. "The power source is completely different from anything we've ever seen, General. It seems to draw energy from space itself somehow. But I think we can copy the design using materials we have on Earth. Give me 2 more weeks." "You have 1 week," the general's voice was firm but not unkind. "We need every advantage we can get." Meanwhile, far above Earth's surface, Colonel Do-hyun Kim floated in the zero gravity of the Lunar Command Base. Through the thick windows of the space station, he could see Earth hanging in the darkness like a blue jewel. Alien ships moved between Earth and the Moon like angry insects, but they had learned to keep their distance after losing so many vessels. "Colonel Kim," his communications officer called out. "We're receiving reports from all civilian space operations. They're ready to follow your orders." Do-hyun pulled himself to the main command console and activated the wide-range communication system. On his screens, he could see dozens of human spacecraft scattered throughout the solar system. Most were simple mining ships, cargo haulers, and research vessels that had never been designed for combat. "Attention all civilian vessels," Do-hyun spoke into his microphone. "As of right now, you are all part of Earth's defense force. Miners, your explosive charges will be used as weapons. Cargo ships, you will carry our new hybrid missiles. Research vessels, you will gather intelligence on alien movements. Every human ship with an engine is now a weapon platform." The response was immediate and enthusiastic. Captain Mina Lim, who had been mining asteroids near Jupiter, was the first to reply. "Copy that, Command. My mining charges can crack open a small moon. Let's see what they do to alien hull plating." Dr. Sunho Lee, commanding a scientific research vessel near Mars, added his voice to the channel. "My ship has stealth capabilities for observing dangerous phenomena. We can get close to their fleet without being detected." Within days, human engineering teams around the world and throughout the solar system began creating weapons that the Galactic Council had never seen before. The asteroid mining charges, designed to break apart huge rocks in space, were modified with alien power sources and became kinetic bombardment weapons capable of punching through the strongest armor. Cargo ships that normally carried supplies between planets were fitted with salvaged alien shielding technology. The result was stealth fighters that could appear on Council sensors as harmless space debris until they opened fire with their hidden weapons. Most confusing to the aliens was human tactical doctrine. Every species the Council had conquered before fought in organized formations with predictable strategies. Humans seemed to have no such limitations. Small human vessels would hide inside asteroid fields and ambush Council patrols. Civilian cargo ships loaded with nuclear weapons would ram alien vessels in suicide attacks that their pilots called freedom runs. Mining ships would use their industrial equipment to grab Council fighters and tear them apart like opening tin cans. Admiral Taku stood before the holographic display in the Council chambers, his scaled face showing exhaustion and frustration. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from 47 different alien species, all waiting to hear why the conquest of one primitive planet was taking so long. Honorable counselors, Taku began, his voice strained. The human resistance is unlike anything in our military databases. They fight without discipline, without formation, without any predictable pattern. Counselor Prime Hext rose from his seat, his insect-like body towering over the other delegates. His multiple eyes focused on the Admiral as he made clicking sounds of disapproval. Explain how primitives are causing such difficulties for our fleet. They use civilian vessels as weapons, Taku replied, pulling up tactical displays. A human cargo ship will appear to be carrying supplies, then suddenly launch missiles from hidden compartments. Mining vessels attack our ships with industrial equipment. They coordinate attacks across impossible distances using communication methods we don't understand. Another counselor, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed different colors as it spoke. How many ships have we lost to these tactics? Taku's shoulders sagged with defeat. 43 vessels completely destroyed, over 100 more damaged and requiring major repairs. They've turned their entire solar system into a weapons platform. Asteroid fields hide their ambush points. Space stations have been converted to missile bases. Even their space debris contains hidden sensors and communication relays. The Council chamber erupted in angry clicks, buzzes, and other alien sounds of displeasure. No primitive species had ever caused such losses to Council forces. The humans were rewriting the rules of space warfare with every battle. Captain Mina Lim gripped the command chair of the massive alien warship as sparks flew from damaged control panels around her. The ship had once been called Destroyer of Worlds in the Council fleet, but her crew had renamed it New Hope, after capturing it during a desperate battle near the asteroid belt. The bridge still smelled like the strange chemicals the previous alien crew had used for breathing, but now it was filled with the voices of human volunteers learning to operate technology far beyond anything Earth had ever created. Status report. Mina called out to her makeshift crew. Most of them were civilian engineers and technicians who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history, learning to fly an alien warship while enemy fleets hunted them through space. Engines are at 60% power, reported Chief Engineer Sunho Lee, wiping alien oil from his hands. The artificial gravity system keeps flickering, but we're managing. The weapon systems are, well, they're complicated, but we're figuring them out. Communications Officer Jiho Park looked up from a control panel covered with alien symbols that changed color as he touched them. Captain, I've managed to break into the Council's main communication network. We can broadcast to every ship in their fleet. Mina felt her heart racing. This was the moment they had been working toward for weeks. Hidden in the captured ship's computer systems were files that would change everything, if they could get the information to the right people. Are you ready to send the transmission? Yes, ma'am. Broadcasting on all Council frequencies now. The message that went out across the galaxy was simple but devastating. It showed clear footage of Council planning documents that had been stored in the ship's memory banks. Page after page of detailed plans for strip mining Earth after conquering humanity. But more shocking were the identical plans for dozens of other worlds that the Council claimed to protect. President Miho's face appeared on screens throughout Council space as his voice carried the truth to every alien civilization. The Council calls it protection. His words were calm but filled with anger. We call it what it is, conquest and exploitation. They plan to take everything valuable from our world and leave us with nothing, just like they have done to so many others. The evidence was overwhelming. Mining schedules, resource extraction timelines, population control measures, everything the Council had hidden from the species they claimed to protect was now visible for all to see. The political earthquake that followed surprised even the humans who had started it. On the bridge of the Zalani flagship, Star of Wisdom, Fleet Commander Rix stared at the transmission with growing horror. The Zalani were a peaceful species that had joined the Council 50 years ago when their homeworld was threatened by solar flares. The Council had promised to help them find a new planet and protect them from future dangers. Commander, his aide spoke quietly, These documents show that our colony worlds were chosen specifically for their mineral resources. The Council never intended to help us settle permanently. Rix's forearms trembled with rage as he read through the files. His people had given up their independence in exchange for protection that was really just a slow form of conquest. "Signal all Zilani vessels," he commanded. "We are withdrawing from Council space immediately." Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as species after species realized they had been deceived. The Korath, who had fought alongside Council forces for decades, discovered that their warrior culture was being deliberately manipulated to make them better soldiers for Council expansion. The Vex, crystalline beings prized for their scientific knowledge, learned that the Council planned to harvest their crystal bodies for use in advanced computers. Within hours, the great alliance that had ruled the galaxy for centuries began falling apart. The younger species that had joined the Council in recent decades were the first to leave, but even some older members began questioning their loyalty. "We were told the Council protected us from chaos," transmitted Zilani Fleet Commander Rix to human forces. "Now we see we were being prepared for harvest just like these humans. The Zilani fleet stands with Earth." The Korath War Chief Zahn sent his own message. "The humans fight like true warriors. They choose death over slavery. We respect this. Our ships will no longer serve the Council." Admiral Taku watched in disbelief as his fleet shrank from over 2,000 vessels to fewer than 500 in just 2 days. Species that had served the Council faithfully for generations were either withdrawing their forces or openly joining the human resistance. "Sir," his weapons officer reported with fear in his voice, "the Vex crystalline ships have just opened fire on our patrol vessels. They're broadcasting human freedom songs as they attack." On the main screen, Taku could see the beautiful crystal ships of the Vex spinning through space like deadly jewels, their energy weapons carving through Council destroyers. Their attack pattern was chaotic and unpredictable. They had learned human fighting tactics. Taku's final transmission to the Council chambers was filled with defeat. "Honorable Councilors, the humans have accomplished something that should have been impossible. They have turned our own alliance against us. 3/4 of our member species have either recalled their fleets or switched sides entirely." He paused, watching as another group of Council ships exploded under attack from their former allies. "We are no longer fighting one primitive planet. We are fighting half the galaxy, and they are all fighting like humans now." The great Galactic Council that had ruled space for over 1,000 years was crumbling, brought down not by superior weapons or larger fleets, but by the simple human idea that freedom was worth fighting for. The war that Admiral Taku had promised would end in 3 days had now lasted 8 long months. Earth still spun freely in space, unconquered and defiant. The human fleet, built from captured alien ships and hybrid technology, had grown from a few dozen vessels to over 300 warships. Most shocking of all, half the galaxy was now fighting against the Council that had once ruled them all. In the space station orbiting Earth, representatives from dozens of species gathered for peace talks that would reshape the entire galaxy. The station had been built using both human and alien technology, creating a structure that looked like nothing anyone had seen before. Curved alien hull plating mixed with angular human engineering, while Earth's blue oceans and white clouds provided a beautiful backdrop through the massive windows. President Miho Park sat at the head of the negotiation table, looking tired but determined. 8 months of constant war had aged him, but his eyes still burned with the fire that had inspired humanity to fight against impossible odds. Fleet Admiral Jisoo Lee sat to his right, her uniform decorated with medals from battles that would be remembered for centuries. General Kyung Bae flanked his left side, while Dr. Hannah Choi served as Chief Technological Advisor, her laptop filled with designs for the new technologies that had changed everything. Across from them sat the broken remnants of the old Council leadership. Only 12 species remained loyal to the original alliance, down from the 47 that had once ruled the galaxy. Counselor Prime Hext, the towering insect-like being, clicked his mandibles nervously as he waited for the proceedings to begin. "This meeting will now come to order," announced Fleet Commander Rix of the Zilani, who had been chosen as mediator for the negotiations. His forearms moved gracefully as he gestured to the assembled delegates. "After 8 months of war, we are here to establish a new order for galactic civilization." Rix's voice carried to every corner of the station through translation devices that converted his words into dozens of different languages. "The old Galactic Council, which ruled through fear and deception, is officially dissolved as of this moment. In its place, we establish the new Galactic Federation, which recognizes the sovereignty and independence of all spacefaring species. Counselor Prime Hex's multiple eyes focused on President Miho with what looked like a mixture of respect and confusion. Before we proceed, the insect being said, his voice creating clicking sounds that the translators converted to words, I must ask a question that has puzzled our military analysts for months. Ask your question, President Miho replied calmly. Your species fights like none we have ever encountered in 1,000 years of galactic expansion, Hex continued. You have no advanced technology, no superior numbers, no ancient military traditions. How do beings who have barely learned to leave their planet resist the combined might of half the galaxy? President Miho leaned back in his chair and smiled, but it was not a happy expression. It was the grim smile of someone who had seen too much death and destruction. We had something you never expected us to have. What could primitive beings possess that advanced civilizations lack? Nothing left to lose and everything worth fighting for. The room fell silent as the simple words sank in. Admiral Jisoo spoke next, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets in the greatest battles in galactic history. Your council offered us slavery disguised as protection. When faced with the choice between freedom and survival, humans chose freedom. Every time. Dr. Hannah looked up from her laptop and added, You also underestimated our ability to learn and adapt. Human engineers reverse-engineered your technology in weeks, not years. We turned your own weapons against you and created new ones you had never imagined. General Kyung's voice was hard as steel when he spoke. Most importantly, you forgot that cornered animals fight the hardest. You gave us no choice but victory or death. So we chose victory. The negotiations continued for 3 days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The old system of galactic domination was dead, killed by human determination and the rebellions it had inspired. The new Galactic Federation would be based on cooperation between equals, not the rule of the strong over the weak. Within months of the treaty signing, Earth's reputation spread to every corner of the galaxy. They were the species that had said no to the Council and made it stick. Some alien civilizations sought them out as allies, hoping to learn the secret of human courage. Others avoided human space entirely, afraid of what these unpredictable beings might do next. But none would ever again make the mistake of underestimating humanity. Captain Mina Lim stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Freedom's Light, looking out at the stars through the reinforced windows. As Earth's first interstellar diplomat, she was traveling to distant worlds to establish formal relations with species that had only recently learned humans existed. Captain, her aide called from behind her. We're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Mina turned to read the transmission on the small screen. It was Admiral Jisoo's final report on the war, and one paragraph stood out among all the tactical analyses and casualty reports. The galaxy has learned a valuable lesson about humanity. Never corner a species that prefers death to slavery. They might just teach the universe what freedom really means. As her ship jumped to faster-than-light speed toward their next destination, Mina smiled at the stars rushing past. The galaxy was a very different place than it had been 8 months ago, and humanity had made sure it would never go back to the old ways again.